Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. For more information on advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise.
Cool.
Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. And I actually have a really cool guy. We're with Stelios Kalisperides, also known as, I said your name right, didn't I?
I think you're doing very well, yeah.
Yeah, man. Also known as Stelios K.
Better than last time.
What's that? Well, I've been practicing for 6 months. I interviewed Stelios back in November, I think, of 2018. It's episode 359. But you can look it up, Stelios K. He's great. Just one of the nicest guys. He and I have become friends. He's a really cool dude. He's a great player. He's got a great book of experience. But I want to talk about a record that he's also a member of a band called 5 Grand Stereo, and they've got a great album called Sex and Money that they put out last year. And I want to turn you guys onto it because it's really good music and it's something that deserves to be heard. So to describe the band 5 Grand Stereo, first of all, it's a fun band. When you listen to it, it's fun music. It's like the kind of stuff that makes you feel good. It's I guess 70s rock with glam influences. You know, it's got a really big sound, upbeat melodies, great vocal harmonies, and tons of layers of music. And I think Stelios was involved in the mixing, so we'll talk about that too. It's incredibly well mixed and engineered. The sound, everything is really clear. The clarity of the music of the recording is wonderful. So, man, thank you for coming on, and I hope we get to turn 5 Grand Stereo loose amongst Everyone Loves Guitar listeners, man.
Thank you for having me back, Craig. I appreciate it.
Anytime. So, how did you guys come together as a band, and when did this happen?
We've been working together in various guises for many years. In the first few years, the band were mainly the musicians for Chris Singleton's solo projects. Chris is the main writer and vocalist on the Sex and Money album on 5 Grand Stereo. This started around 2005. And at the time, Chris was managed by a guy who used to work for Sony Music. And I got referred to audition for his band by Zane, our bass player, who I had met on another gig that I was doing at the time. And the early incarnations of the band were all Chris's songs and productions. We did a few gigs and also some showcases for various labels in London, which didn't lead to much, apart from us gelling together as a band and developing chemistry, playing together live, which is so important and so overlooked nowadays. You know, slowly the rehearsal started developing into jams, and we were all contributing ideas more creatively and enjoying more of a band vibe. And we also had become really good friends over the years. So becoming 5 Grand Stereo and turning it into a band thing made total sense. And this is how the album Sex and Money developed.
Very cool, man. What was the motivation to put out a record? Because it's not, there's not often a lot of motivation to do that nowadays, certainly financially. But what did you get? And you didn't just put out crank out a record. It's a great record, man. It's a lot of effort went in there. The songs are really melodic, and you guys do play very well together.
Thank you. Chris had a lot of ideas and songs from earlier in his career that were kind of unfinished, and we would it actually took more than a year to finish the album, from the initial inception of ideas to the final mixing and mastering. And as we were all busy with other projects, I was on tour on and off quite a bit with other artists, and the rest of the band were also busy. So every few weeks or every month we would get together and block some time and go to meet up in Chris's basement and work on writing and developing ideas that he had. So from there, we kind of thought that, we have some this is going to sound a bit, a bit, I don't know, arrogant or whatever, but we thought we had some good material, and we wanted to put it on an album, and it developed into Sex and Money, which is like a concept album. And that's the motivation behind it.
Concept album in what way? And by the way, that didn't sound arrogant. I mean, I hope to God everybody puts a record together because they think they have good material, not say like, hey man, this is shit, let's put an album together. That would be arrogant, actually. So concept album in what way?
It's a concept album about two things. It's about the cult of celebrity and sexism in the music industry. And every track progresses a story, which is about two Irish musicians, a boy and a girl, Lenny and Sarah, dealing with a move to London and the fallout of the ending of their relationship.
Oh, cool.
And the album looks at the way that musicians, and indeed the music industry in general, can put a desire for recognition above musical considerations, and also how the music industry treats women. In terms of which songs have particular significance, Anyone Can Be a Star probably sums up the whole album in one song.
Absolutely, man. That's such a great song. Such a great song, man. The lyrics, the melody, the video. It was so you said it puts, it puts recognition above, what was the thing you said?
Well, I mean, the music industry, it's the way they kind of put a desire for recognition above musical considerations.
Yeah.
It's all these reality shows that, it's about becoming famous rather than the quality of the music. I'm not saying this is always the case,
sure,
but, we've all seen it happen many times.
Very much so, but it's kind of weird because you could, in some ways, the whole platform of YouTube is based on that.
It is, yeah.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it? For everybody wanting to be, famous, and it's really weird.
I guess, because it's not only the reality TV shows, it's YouTube, it's Instagram, it's, all the social media platforms. There's a lot of people that have become stars, doing, something very specific, and fair play to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this, you said you met every month, so this was recorded as a band, like all in the studio together for the most part?
This is, it was a mixture of things. The early incarnations of most of the songs started out in Chris's basement studio. And, as I said earlier, we would get together and jam on ideas that he brought to the table, and we would all contribute and turn those into finished songs. And we would then record a rough demo together as a band on Pro Tools. And once we got the demos down, or maybe 2 or 3 at a time, we were happy with the result, we would book a studio to go in and replace the parts, recording drums and whatever other instrumentation was needed. And some of the songs were recorded fully in one studio. And for some others, because of budget constraints and things like that, there were overdubs that were done either at Chris's studio or my studio. But we would, the initial kind of incarnation of the songs was us creating the ideas and playing together as a band.
It's very cool. It's one of the things I was thinking of when you sent me some of the photos. I was like, God, there's a lot of money went into all this. Even the photos were nice. I mean, someone had to get paid to take them,
Yeah, I mean, you pay a photographer to take photos, but some of the gigs we did, the venues provide photographers, and then you get friendly with a photographer, and they're being very kind and supportive, and they don't mind sending you a photo and letting you use it. So it doesn't always mean that we'll pay a lot of money to someone to get photos done. Yeah, but we did have to do that at one point. Yeah, especially for the album photos and some of the website photos, we did hire a good photographer for that.
Well, those ones you just sent me today, like the one you had like an old Polaroid or something. That photo was it looked like it was professionally taken. That was really good.
It was. It was in a studio in East London. Actually, we did that. It was a house that the owners rent out for photo sessions, and the whole kind of theme of the house is that kind of 60s, 70s, 50s, and with the right lighting and the right backgrounds and all that, you can make it look like it's something from old times.
Yeah, it looked like Studio 54 or something like a disco ball.
Yeah.
So you personally were pretty involved in the recording process, if I remember correctly. What did you do? What was your role in the non-musical aspect of the recording process and the mixing and so on and so forth?
We didn't have a big budget for the album, so we had to be organized quite well when we went into the studio for the sessions. And it was very important for us to get a great drum sound from the source, and this was always the first thing that we recorded when we booked the studio sessions. So it was mainly me and Chris who were responsible for the recording sessions. We were after that kind of vintage open drum sound reminiscent of 60s and 70s classic rock records. Ben, the drummer, is great at getting a very nice recorded drum sound. This may sound counterintuitive, but playing slightly lighter actually gives you a more balanced and bigger drum sound, and that's exactly what he did.
Interesting.
Yeah, because sometimes if you hit the drums really hard and you get this kind of choking sound, I'm sure some of the listeners will know what I'm talking about. It doesn't really help when you're recording and having to mix an album. This concept applies to other instruments also. It's more important on acoustic instruments, but even electric guitars benefit from this. So to answer your question, I was involved in the recording process of some of the instruments. And the main studio we used was called Fish Factory in Northwest London.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, it's right next to a fish factory, actually. That's why it's called. And on the way there, it smells a bit like a fish factory as well.
Nice. Too bad it's not next to a dispensary, right?
It's a very unique place. It's run by an enigmatic Italian called Antonio, whose surname still remains a mystery to us all. And it's one of those places that, unless you know where it is, it's not easy to find. They're not very big on promotion and advertising.
That's funny.
It's a bit gritty, but it has a really nice layout with a control room upstairs and a big open space downstairs, a bit like Abbey Road Studio 2, but slightly cheaper.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
And anyway, it has an API console. I don't know if, I'm not sure if the listeners are familiar with API consoles. They are renowned for their preamps and are great for recording drums. It gives you this kind of big fat drum sound, and this is what we were after for the album.
Is that why you specifically picked that studio?
One of the main reasons, yeah.
Interesting.
And, it was a recommendation, and then we looked into the equipment that they had, and because the most important thing, because of the budget that we had, you can record guitars and vocals either at my studio or Chris's studio, but for drums, you want a really nice room that will capture that, and you want a nice console, to run the drums to. And we did the piano and Hammond organ there as well, and they have a real Hammond with a Leslie.
Oh, that's great, man.
And actually, if you go on our website and our YouTube channel, you can find some videos of live sessions we did at the same studio. We went in for one day and recorded about 6 tracks from the album completely live as a band, no overdubs or anything. And we did 3-4 takes of each song. And we hired a camera crew and got some good footage. And you can see some of the videos on our website and YouTube channel.
Dude, so what's the YouTube channel?
It's 5 Grand Stereo. If you go on our website, 5grandstereo.com, there are links to everything. And also, if you go on YouTube and type 5 Grand Stereo, it should bring up our channel.
That's awesome, man. Everybody, please check that out, 5grandstereo.com, and then go to YouTube and subscribe to the 5 Grand Stereo channel. I'm going to check. Man, I just learned something. I didn't realize, and that's because I'm not a musician, obviously, but I didn't realize that there's a consideration even of the room you record in, that different rooms are going to give you certain sounds. It always amazes me, like how many decisions are involved in making music. you know.
Yeah. Well, the main thing, I mean, if you get a good sound at the source, there's less to do during the mix, and everything just falls into place and sounds natural. You don't have to repair or fix things.
Sure.
You just enhance whatever is there, and this is what we were going for. And that kind of nice open drum sound. It's important to have a good room, a good console to run to use the preamps and good mics, and then it's up to the mixing to do the rest.
It's so funny when you mention basements. I'm in Florida. We have no basements here. So I always, in New York, they have basements where I come from, of course, but it's so funny to hear basement. It's just something that's foreign here. So on the record, there's tons of really good guitar fills. This is not a guitar record per se, but I was curious, what was your goal with recording guitar on most of these tracks? And let me say this, Stelios is extremely competent behind the recording board. He has mixed literally hundreds and hundreds of tracks for television and movies. He does a lot of sync licensing, so he's extremely experienced in this. So what was your goal with the guitar aspect of the music?
The guitars, thank you for that, by the way. I appreciate your comment. The songs on the album all have strong melodies and are
very
deep-rooted in 70s classic rock with elements of glam and pop. So my goal was to capture the essence of each song, and that was different from song to song. It wasn't about being too technical or busy or showing off. It was about serving each song and coming up with parts that enhanced it without getting in the way of everything else.
Yep.
Sometimes what you leave out is more important than what you put in. And if there is a solo in there, it's not too long and it serves the song. Some of the solos were ideas from Chris that I developed and played, and some others were mine. For me in general, when I'm doing a guitar session, the most important things are not to get in the way of the vocals, locking in with the groove, leaving space for other instruments, choosing the right sound for the song, and enhancing it by coming up with relevant parts.
I think that one thing you just said is not to get in the way of the vocals is extremely important.
Yeah, the vocal is the most important. There's no denying that. This is, this is what makes a song a song.
Yeah. I interviewed. Sorry, go ahead. No, you go.
Now I was going to talk about a bit more, as this is a guitar-related podcast.
Yeah, man.
If the listeners would be interested in, finding out what I used.
Yeah, man.
And
spill the beans.
Guitars. Some of the guitars were recorded at the studio that I mentioned earlier, and some at Chris's and my studio. And amps-wise, I used two main amps for the majority of the parts. It was a divided by 13 JRT 915. Great amps made by Fred Tacconi in California. And the other one was a Dr. Z Maz 18.
Great amps. Made in Ohio, I think.
Yeah, they are, I can't remember exactly where they are, but they are great amps. There's a variety of guitars I used, Les Paul, a Telecaster, a Fano, a Tom Anderson Tele, and this Godin that I showed you earlier with the P90s is a great sounding guitar, and also my PRS Dave Grissom model. And often I would double track a part using slightly different sounds and guitars and pan or mix them accordingly during the mixing. Other times I would only use one mic or guitar if the part had a smaller contribution or significance to the song. The only cover on the album, which is a song called Mr. Lighter by an artist called Letty.
Spell that?
It's the only Lettie, Letty. I think she's a British artist. She's got some really cool songs, and we covered this song. We did our own thing with it, but funny enough, it's the only song where I didn't use a real amp at all in the song.
Would you use? It just
goes to show that the myriad of equipment we have available nowadays are all tools to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
When we recorded the demo live at Chris's basement, it starts with just guitar and vocals, and Jane is singing the lead vocal on that. And I used the guitar plugin on the demo. It's just a native instruments guitar rig. It's a Vox AC30 emulation, and my PRS DGT. Nothing fancy. And when it came to re-recording it, we just couldn't recreate that vibe. And I felt that for that particular track, that control plugin sound was the most suitable for the track. So we kept that. Yeah.
Awesome. You also use a lot of effects. I mean, a ton of effects, but they're not guitar centric. Like, you're not putting on some things to show off the guitar. I found that you're using them more as sort of textures to color the song. Is it two questions? One, is it safe to assume that you've put a ton of time into working with effects like this on your own to understand how to use them as colors and not just, pull out your, guitar and wail away?
I have, yeah. Thank you for that comment. I have I've always been into sound design and effects. They always fascinated me, and I always showed interest from a young age. And I would say that the main guitar sounds for most of the songs are quite, inverted commas, traditional, either clean, crunchy, or distorted. But as you said, there are other secondary sounds around those that I created as textures by combining different pedals or rearranging them in unconventional ways, experimenting to create unusual sounds, or even adding a plugin during the mix, which changed the sound completely and gave the song new dimension. Sometimes we would use a guitar plugin instead of an amp, just to layer parts, because that's what the song needed. And there are a couple of instances where we overdubbed the part using the good old and trusted Line 6 pod. Remember those?
Yeah. So the second part is, can you just share maybe a couple of examples of some of those effects?
I remember using a phaser quite a lot. And I kind of blended that in with either a fuzz or a bit of drive distortion. I mean, this is not groundbreaking things. People have used those, for decades. But
but when you're blending all that together, that is pretty cool.
Leslie effect, tremolo effects, wah-wah, and then you kind of combine things. If you rearrange pedals in a different way, you get completely different results. For instance, if you put a phaser before overdrive, it sounds completely different than if you add it later on after the power amp section. So it's whatever the song required. Or I remember there was a plugin we used quite a bit, was the Moog analog delay. I think you can get that in a pedal format as well. But that sounded really good. It gives you this kind of, for the lack of a better word, analog delay sound, but it's vintage, and we use that quite a bit on guitars and also on Chris's vocals to get that kind of slapback delay thing, reminiscent of the Beatles and things like that, and it gives it a nice dimension. Other effects that I used, there were a couple of plugins actually that I combined from either native instruments or from Pro Tools. Just, it didn't have to be anything expensive or any like magic pedal. It's just, by experimenting, you stumble upon a sound that you think, yeah, that sounds good, and it sounds different. And there's actually a funny story about some of the keyboard sounds on the album, because we were after something different, something unique. And some of the synth sounds are from an old organ that Chris found on the street outside his house.
Serious?
I'm serious. Yes,
that happens every day. I just walked outside. There was
people just dump organs,
Does he live in a forest? What the hell? It was right next to the old mattress that people dumped. Is that a thing over there?
Yeah.
Mattresses. No, mattresses. It's a thing here. Fucking mattresses all over the place.
Depending on which area you live
in.
But I mean, in London, space is very limited. So if people start running out of space, they have to get rid of things.
I guess. Yeah.
He dragged it into his basement and started experimenting with it. And, it was working, and we ended up using some of those sounds on the album.
That's awesome. Dude, Chris is going to have to like set up a theme park in there with his basement. I've heard his basement so many times. He's going to need to charge admission to get in there, man. What the hell's going on there?
He's moved house since, and his studio is in a loft now. So the basement has been upgraded to a loft.
One of the things that I liked about the music in particularly is it's pop / glam, but the melodies are great, but it's pretty dark. A lot of it, lyrically, it's pretty dark. So I just wanted to talk about some of the songs and see if there's any backstory there. There's one song you have called "This Stuff," and the lyrics, I think it starts, "I was a small town boy. I was a fucked up kid." So even though it was really weird because it's very melodic. I mean, it's Beatle-esque in its melodies. It doesn't sound like the Beatles, but they're really, really great melodies, and they're very addictive. But yet you got these intense lyrics.
Right.
So what's like in that particular song, do you know, is there a backstory to that?
There is a backstory. That's
and was Chris Lenny, a small town boy and a fucked up kid?
You have to ask him to expand on all that, but he did write the lyrics.
That was a very politically correct answer.
There might be some relevance there. It's one of the characters.
That was a character, the guy and the girl.
The character called Lenny, the guy.
Yeah.
Is one of the main characters in the album's story talking. Some of the lyrics is probably for dramatic effect, just to enhance, whatever is going on in his mind. But if you read the liner notes for the album, you'll see that Lenny is not a happy or well-adjusted guy.
Mm.
But Chris grew up in a little town on the outskirts of Dublin in Ireland.
Mm.
And he didn't always love his childhood. So there's probably a bit of autobiographical stuff creeping in there. But you'll need to ask him for that.
Awesome. That's good. Chris sounds like the guy I need to have a drink with.
Yeah.
We need to have a therapy session for both of us.
When you come over, we'll all go for a beer.
In Chris's loft.
In Chris's loft. And have a jam.
Then the greatest, the single and the best song on the album, it's just a really great song. And it's called "Anyone Can Be a Star." You mentioned it earlier. The lyrics are so cool. And this is one of my favorite lines. "Don't forget to thank Jesus when you're picking up the award." That was so cool because this became a thing in this country. And I think I'm assuming in England too, because I'm sure he's just not limited to watching American TV for his ideas. If he watches any American TV. So obviously it's going on there. And I'm not saying it's authentic, but it became a thing, over the years that, don't forget to thank, it's like a standard thing to the point where like, oh, they didn't thank Jesus. What the hell? Like, you start thinking, are they bad people or what? It's like, it's become that much of a standardized thing. Yeah. So, I guess this song, as you said, summarizes the whole, it's a great summary of the sex and money where the music industry and celebrity, I guess, puts recognition and society really, man, because the music industry only does these things because people want it. They want recognition above anything else, right. Which is kind of crazy. But, what does that mean? Because this is the single. As far as like promotional efforts in today's world where there's no record label, you guys are the record label, okay?
Yeah.
And you guys formed a record label to release these records. What does that mean to release a single as far as promotionally? Like what went behind that?
Well, technically, Chris runs his own small label, Brown Paper Records, and we've released 4 singles of the album through it. And because of Chris's Irish heritage, we've really only promoted our music actively in Ireland today. We have a PR and radio plugger guy over there, and he's done a good job of getting us on major radio stations and TV shows over there, Very like cool. The Late Late Show. So there's been a bit of success over there, and quite a lot of Irish people have streamed the album. And thanks to the global nature of the internet, people can, of course, listen anywhere, and we are trying to work out at the moment how we can best reach more listeners outside Ireland. So
this is it, baby.
Yeah.
This is it. Everybody needs to listen to this.
It's, we have to make the most of the technology we have available and I know the music industry is struggling, or so we hear, financially, but there are other ways to reach new audiences and people that were not available in the past. Going back to the "Don't forget to thank Jesus" thing, if I may
please
comment a little bit on that. That song is about a middle-aged male industry executive telling a young woman how to behave in order to achieve success in the industry.
And by the way, nothing against somebody who wants to thank Jesus. It's just become such a thing.
I know, but this is kind of
that you question, like, have any of these people even driven by a church? It's not like statistically possible that everybody's fucking thanking Jesus. It's like, what? Like it's so prolific. So
it's funny because that track, Chris wrote that track back in the early 2000s, and the Jesus reference actually involves Britney Spears. It's about how 1 minute she was performing an act with a snake, and then the next she was on an awards podium thanking Jesus for her success.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So that's where that reference comes from.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Interesting. Yeah. You guys also made a great video for that track, and I want to encourage everybody to check it out. It's Anyone Can Be a Star. It's a great song if you're at all a little cynical about anything, society and the positioning that people aspire to when it may or may not be genuine. I mean, you'll love the song. But making that video, like, was it hard to make that? There's a lot of scenes that, like, a ton of editing went in there, and if I
tell you how it was made, you won't believe me.
Yeah, tell me. Well, I mean, there's a lot of editing in there, man.
We were on a limited budget, so we didn't really have the option of spending a truckload of cash on a video.
Right.
Chris is such an intelligent and talented guy. He actually sourced a lot of retro stock clips and strung them together to make the video.
You're kidding me.
I swear, that's what he did. Yeah.
But how do you?
Really well.
Yeah, but how do you sync the syncing? Had to be really difficult.
He's really good with technology, and it's like building up a song using layers of samples.
Yeah.
It's if you see the video and pay close attention, you know how it goes from one scene to the other. It's it did take quite a long time to make, but that's how it was made.
It's very cool. Chris, you're going to go somewhere.
It's not a Hollywood production.
No, it's great though, man. It was really, it was the way it was synced was really good. And it was really appropriate because it was really weird. I'm thinking, and maybe it's just me that I'm a little nutty. I'm like, where did they find that old television? But now I get it that it was old stock clips.
Stock clips that you can find online. Yeah.
Wow, hey, but that's a great lesson for every musician listening to this who has any modicum of the phrase "I can't" in their head. You just got to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And there's something called the internet, which allows you to ask the right questions to anybody. I mean, it's like my son will call me up sometimes. Hey, I'm doing this software program. How do I do this? I'm like, man, they have this really neat thing. It's called Google. Check it out, man. And then if you have problems, call me up, because like I always feel the satisfaction you get from doing something gives you the confidence to then do the next thing. So like he put this video together. Now he's ready to make a freaking movie, I'm sure,
Yeah. Well, he's done, there's another video that he's done the same thing on. Our latest single is called 1975. And there's another video online on our YouTube channel and on our website that is made in a similar way.
Very cool. I will check that out. 1975. Awesome. And man, I know I asked you this before, and I'm sorry to waste your time. At the end of the song, at the end of Anyone Can Be a Star, you play like 4 chords, man, and they're so perfect. It's like they're kind of sad, but the way they ring out, it makes you feel so good. So tell me what the chords are. He's busting out his guitar, man. We're having a live performance.
Don't worry, I'm not going to shred.
No, man, you can do what you do because as long as it's you and not me, people will actually enjoy it. Believe me.
Well, I don't know if they're going to enjoy my playing, but I think you're referring to the outro, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple chords, but
Yes.
they've been used on countless songs in the past. You know, it's very kind of characteristic of a lot of Beatles songs. It appears a lot in a lot of the Beatles songs. I mean, in songwriting terms, if you want to get a bit theoretical and things like that, is what's called a modal interchange, where you borrow a chord from the parallel minor key if you're in a major key. So we are in A major. We're in A major, and then you have D over A. And then you have a D minor, which is the fourth chord of the A, but borrowed from the A minor.
And back to A.
A bit out of tune, but you get the idea.
Yeah, man, it just sounds so beautiful at the end of that record. It's very very tender, man. I listened to that ending several times just because it just feels so good, man. You did a great job on that, man. It's amazing how, such little things can have such a deep emotional impact, and that's the power of music, I think, man.
It's a great. I mean, Chris wrote the song. I can't take any credit for that. We contributed in terms of parts, but he's a great songwriter and great lyricist, and we did our thing on it. But if it wasn't for him, the song wouldn't have existed. So he's a star.
Awesome. Where can people get the record? Where can people find more information about 5 Grand Stereo and all the news and all of that good stuff?
The album is available on all the major streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Music, and so on.
Great.
And the CD, which comes in a lovely limited edition panel digipack version, can be bought from our website, 5grandstereo.com.
Awesome.
It's got a nice booklet in there as well with all the information and the lyrics and a little bit of background about the concept and the story of each song. There's a little paragraph before each song that explains the story behind it and how the story progresses between Lenny and Sarah.
Very cool, man. You promoted, man. I'm so proud of you.
I'm learning from the master.
Stelios is going to pass out after this.
I'm running out of steam here. Energy.
No, dude, everybody check out the album. It's a really great record. It's called Sex and Money. The band is 5 Grand Stereo. Go to 5grandstereo.com. And man, if you don't have any time, start with one thing. Go to YouTube. Go to their channel, which is also called 5 Grand Stereo, and subscribe to it and check out the song Anyone Can Be a Star. It's a beautiful song. It's very cool. The lyrics are great. The video is great. And the melody is rocking. These guys did a great job. Chris, props up to you, brother. Anything new coming up for you guys?
We're recording some new material, and we're looking at ways to get more ears listening to the current album.
Good.
We'll be gigging later in the UK and Ireland later in the year. And also spending a lot of time in the studio, writing new material. We'd love to take our music abroad and reach more people. So if anyone would like more information or for any booking inquiries, you can get in touch via our website, 5grandstereo.com.
Awesome. Please do, everybody. Anybody wants to book these guys or hook up with them and connect with them. There's a contact tab there, I'm assuming.
There is a contact tab, yes.
Great. Take advantage of it. These guys are a great band. Really,
and I think
really
if you sign up, you get a free track as well all tracks are free nowadays on Spotify, but there you go. You get a download of the track.
I don't have Spotify. I do Apple. Everybody seems to have Spotify. Am I not with the hip kids or?
No, you should catch up here. Get with the program, Chris.
I know. I'm not with the hip kids. Dude,
I think Spotify started before Apple Music. That's why most people stayed with that. But it's probably the same thing, more or less.
I said, you know what? When I subscribed,
they're ripping musicians off. Both of them are ripping musicians
I know.
off.
I was really reluctant to do it, and I subscribed for two reasons. One was I was so every time I'd have someone come on the show and I'd be like, can you send me the tracks? And I felt like it was such another step for them and another step for me. So I just subscribed so I didn't have to ask anybody.
Yeah.
And the other reason is I found out all three of my kids were paying for it. And I'm like, if I subscribe, they don't have to, they could all get a free membership. So I was
you
like,
can get a family subscription.
Yeah, it was like $15 a month and they're all paying. I'm like,
Absolutely.
Guys. So of course, then, anybody who has kids could relate, older kids can relate to this. Then I subscribe and I send them out emails and none of them fucking register. They're still paying the $10 a month. It's like, I think my one son did. He's smart. It's like, you can't win, man. It's just like, to smack
They
your
can't be bothered to cancel their subscription.
Oh yeah. It's, they're too busy, Anyway, man, listen, I wish you guys great luck. It's a beautiful record. Thank you so much for making it, man. Thank you so much for being you. You're an awesome guy. I always love talking to you. You're a great guy. I'm really glad we got to connect.
Right.
And I really want everybody to please check out 5 Grand Stereo. It'll be worth your time. And Sex and Money is a great record. The lyrics are wonderful in here. And I love, again, I know I've said it a dozen times, anyone can be a star. It's a great record. That's it, man. Any last words?
Any last words? Thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to talk about the album. And thank you for what you're doing for the guitar community.
You're welcome, man.
Podcast. I'm a big fan. And
Thank you, brother.
Everyone loves guitar.
Everyone loves guitar. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks again to Stelios Kalisperides, to Chris, and the rest of 5 Grand Stereo. Guys, you made a great record. And check out Sex and Money at 5grandstereo.com or on their YouTube channel. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.